Hangmen Also Die is a fantastic and incredibly underrated film from one of the all-time greats, Fritz Lang, who you may know as directing classics like M, Metropolis, and The Big Heat. Released in the midst of World War II, Hangmen Also Die is set in German-occupied Czechoslovakia and follows around the resistance fighters there, specifically a political assassin, where the Gestapo are trying to hunt down this assassin and are capturing anybody that gets in their way. I think what sets this film apart and what makes it such an anti-Nazi film is that, one, it was released during the war, and also it portrays the Germans in a very specific way. You can portray the Germans as very powerful and very dominant, and that is a way to portray them in things like Schindler's List or Life is Beautiful, by portraying them as, some of the most evil that humanity has ever seen. And that is a good way to do it, but it does run the risk of portraying them as all-powerful and almost making them seem more powerful than they actually are. And especially during the war, that's something you really want to avoid. Now, there also were satires and comedies about the Nazis, like Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator or To Be or Not to Be, which is an effective way, but it's also very difficult to do, because if you make it too comedic, then you're almost making light of a very serious topic, and that satire is very hard to walk that line. Hangmen Also Die portrays them in a way that's kind of right in between those two concepts, where it never portrays them as too powerful. It does a very pulpy job of portraying them. Like, they're supervillains, but they're not all-powerful supervillains. So they do have power, but they're not always portrayed as incredibly smart. But it never undermines the impact and the gravity of what they're doing. I also find the ending really powerful in this film because it's set during the war. They don't know how the war is going to end, and so the ending of this film is a little bit more somber because it's not the end of the war. There's no portraying the end of the war because the end of the war hadn't even happened yet. This is also a very inspirational film, with the freedom fighters in Czechoslovakia being very steadfast in their ideals and fighting against something that is so powerful and so oppressive, but they still stand their ground. And I think that inspiration is really powerful, knowing that the end is kind of somber, but it's still inspirational, since the people that have to be inspired about this don't see the end of the tunnel like we do in hindsight. Fritz Lang has so many incredible films under his belt that it makes sense that some of the incredible films are swept under the rug, but I think this is a super underrated Fritz Lang film that needs to be seen more.